Welcome back. Thawing a frozen partnership or freezing in the winter? Well, the EU seems to have made its choice as it resumes talks with Russia this Friday. So has common sense prevailed? Well, the EU, after all, gets roughly a third of its oil and about 40% of its natural gas imports from Russia. In addition, Russia is the EU's third most important trading partner after the US and China. And at a time of global recession, the need to coordinate with Russia is seen as crucial. Russia has huge cash reserves that could help some of the EU's crippled economies, like Iceland. On the political front, Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council and plays an important role in negotiations with North Korea, Iran, Israel and the Palestinians. And Russia still holds a formidable nuclear arsenal and is able to project military force far beyond its borders. Well, a defiant Russian president had this to say in the midst of the standoff over the conflict in Georgia. We are not afraid of anything, the prospect of another Cold War included. Of course, we don't want that, but if they choose a confrontational scenario, well, we've been through all kinds of situations and we'll survive. Well, still with us now are our guests in Brussels, Ona Yuknevichiene, in Moscow, Vyacheslav Matuzov, and in London, Zaki Cooper. Ona Yuknevichiene in Brussels, let me start with you, if I may, because Russia does have huge cash reserves that could play an important role in the search for credit and capital to help bail out collapsed European economies like Iceland. I mean, how do you see the partnership going, particularly with a global credit crunch at the moment?
Yes, you are right, and I think we already heard from the colleague in London that the global crisis indeed is harming a majority of the countries already. And I, as economist, probably can say that the countries which have a cash, which have money to invest in this particular moment when stocks go down and therefore they can be active in the market from this point of view, brings a new aspect in relations between Russia and the European Union, and specifically to my country. I can see that there could be bigger interest of those countries who have finances to come and to take over the most important economies or companies, like in Baltic states, like in Lithuania. So I think that this economic dependence further on has potential grounds to worry for me as Lithuanian at the moment.
Vyacheslav Matuzov in Moscow, I mean, let me play devil's advocate here, because some observers say the partnership appears to be crucial for Europe, but not that crucial for Russia, and that perhaps Russia only needs Europe for things like new technology and to provide a buffer against US ambitions. What's your thinking there?
No, I don't think that Russia ignoring European interests. On the contrary, my opinion is that priorities for Russian foreign policy, the first stage of priorities is former Soviet Union republics, except Baltic states, who are considered independent from Russia relationship, and they are members of NATO organizations and members of the European Union. We put aside Baltic states, but Kazakhstan, Caucasian republics, Ukraine, Belarus, and Central Asian republics, they need Russian cooperation with Russia in economical field. So I can say that first Russian priority on foreign scene is former Soviet Union republics mentioned by me. But the second priority is European because we are now, Russian-American economical ties are very, very weak in comparison with Europe. If we compare now America, it's quite a little small things that connect Russian economy with American. But European economy is dependent on Russia, and Russia is dependent on a European economy. They are speaking a lot about European dependence on energy. I don't think that it depends only European on Russian supply. But it is Russia is dependent on European market.
Okay, well,
and who is controlling these ways on communication, petrol and gas communication? what is trying Ukraine, Poland, who are becoming an instrument to influence on these relations.
Okay,
so it is very important for both sides.
Okay, let's just bring in one other player here that we haven't mentioned so far, and that's China. Zaki Cooper in London, I mean, how worried is Europe that Russia will look to increase its ties perhaps with China, where commodities are cheaper, it has new technology, and it also, of course, has huge cash reserves?
I think there is a feeling amongst some sections of the Russian political community who are sort of fed up with Europe and are looking towards other parts of the world, and to strengthen and beef up Russia's ties with countries like China and Turkey and India too. China is obviously a key player in the 21st century. You can hardly ignore it. It's had a very successful year with the Beijing Olympics, being able to project itself onto the world stage, and its growth rates of 8 or 9% plus are very, very impressive, even though, like every other country, it won't be unaffected by the credit crunch. And in fact, it was interesting that China just announced a slowdown for the biggest slowdown in 5 years in its economic growth. But clearly, if the European Union keeps closing its door on Russia as Russia perceives it, then Russia will look towards other governments and other parts of the world. And that is a concern, I think, yes. Ona Yuknevichene in Brussels, let me just widen this out to the global picture here. I mean, I was reading something earlier. One very interesting point is that on the day that Barack Obama was elected, Russia chose not to congratulate him, but to issue a threat to station missiles in Kaliningrad, which is on your doorstep, in response to US plans for that missile shield in Poland. I mean, what do you think was behind Medvedev's thinking here?
I think that this is a style or the way of diplomacy of Russia to be quite aggressive, and I would say that this is like political culture of these people. But at the same time, I think that this was a very clear sign to Barack Obama, saying that if United States, if NATO is placing shields in Czech Republic, in Poland, so then we are coming also closer to European Union. So I think that it was quite a serious sign to given to Obama to find out what would be his opinion. We all know that President Bush was quite straightforward towards Russia, but Obama, as incoming president, was not so strong and was not so clear on this. He said that he will stand behind his allies in Europe. But when it comes to particular issue, I think that Russia is just checking what would be the response.
Okay, I want to put that very point to Vyacheslav Matizov there in Moscow, because, I mean, do you see Dmitry Medvedev as reasserting Russia as a key global player? And how important is it for Moscow to remind Europe and the West of that from time to time?
It's very strange to articulate Russian intention to deploy anti-rocket systems Iskander in Kaliningrad area. But it is deployed not because Russia expressed its aggressiveness. On the contrary, aggressiveness is, in the words of Lithuanian representative, in the deals of Poland government and their decision of American government, who considered it is absolutely reliably for Russia to watch our American rockets on Polish territory, just on the behind the territory of Russian Federation. But when Russia responds adequately on this step, it considered aggressively, unacceptably, and so on. It is not aggressive point. It is bargaining point.
All right.
If you don't deploy your rockets in Poland, we don't deploy our rockets in Kaliningrad. It's absolutely clear. I think that Obama, as a minded person, will come to this conclusion with Russian, and I believe that no rockets in Poland and in Kaliningrad will be deployed.
Okay, I want to get, because we're running out of time, I want to get a final point from Zaki Cooper in London. Despite these prickly political and diplomatic problems, where do you see the relationship going?
I think there are some long-term objectives that we should bear in mind. One is to encourage Russia to come into the World Trade Organization. It actually applied for membership back in 1993 and has been waiting. And I think the international community would benefit from Russia's presence within the WTO. Another is putting pressure on the Duma, the Russian parliament, to sign the energy charter, which would, of course, allow third parties to use Gazprom's pipelines. But these are all things that in the long term we should aim for. In the short to medium term, I think recommencing the talks and engaging in a dialogue will help us to reach those things long term.
OK, we have to leave it there. Zaki Cooper in London, Vyacheslav Matazov in Moscow, and Ona Yuknevicene in Brussels. Thank you all very much indeed. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We, of course, welcome your comments and your suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here, goodbye for now.